All right, what's up, guys? Today we are going to talk about something that I've gotten a lot of questions from you guys, just like over time and just throughout my sort of like fitness journey. And it's something that's very important and it's very helpful to understand and just know whether you're trying to lose weight, put on muscle, whether you're trying to just maintain your current um, sort of like weight or body composition, or just it's beneficial to just understand and know in the first place. And with that being said, this topic we're going to be talking about is how to set and calculate your macros. Um, I mean, there's counting macros and calories isn't necessary by any means. There's plenty of other ways to do it, or it's not even. Some people just don't feel like they want to do it in the first place because it stresses them out and it's just it takes away from their time, which I totally understand that, and it's totally logical and understandable why they're like that. Um, but for me personally, I like to calculate and understand and just know exactly what I'm eating and be able to quickly change or adjust something so I can perfect or adjust the outcome or look of my body composition or just weight. It's very beneficial to know and understand, especially if you are someone like me who's very into body aesthetics and wanting to look the most pleasing and just have an overall just very good looking healthy physique. Whether I'm trying to lose weight, put on muscle, it doesn't matter. It's just very helpful to understand. So I guess let's just dive right into it and get started. So to start off, I think I'm just going to talk about calorie surplus and calorie deficit. I already have a video that kind of covers these when I talked about how to lose weight. I talked a lot about being in a calorie deficit, and then I also mentioned calorie surplus. So just real quick, calorie surplus is when you are eating or consuming more calories in a day than your body needs to sort of maintain its current state. So if, say, for the average person, you are 160 pounds, I don't even know. Just say your body requires 2,500 calories in a day to maintain its current weight and just overall physique. To be in a surplus, you'd have to eat more calories than that. So you'd have to eat over 2,500 calories. So, or if you wanted to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight, you would have to eat under 2,500 calories. So anywhere from 2,400 all the way down to say 1,800. That's a very big deficit, but that's just an example. So to start off with how to set your macros, we're going to talk about gaining muscle to start off. So putting on weight, muscle, whatever it is, gaining body fat, doesn't matter. So to start off with gaining muscle, obviously, like I just said, you need to be in a calorie surplus. So you need to be eating more calories than your maintenance. So more in a day, you need to be eating more calories than your body needs to maintain its current state. So for someone like me, I have a relatively low calorie intake right now, just because I'm going to be honest, I don't weigh a whole lot right now. I'm only like 150-ish pounds. So my maintenance is relatively low. I only require about around 2,300 calories to maintain my current weight and physique. So you guys already know this, but I'm putting on muscle right now, or trying to put on as much lean muscle as I can. So that means I need to be eating a surplus. And so personally, when I eat in a surplus, I like to be in the smallest surplus possible. That means I'm going to be putting on the most lean muscle that I can without minimizing the amount of fat that I put on. So when gaining weight, if you're in a surplus, you're going to be gaining weight no matter what. But depending on how big the surplus you're in, that will decide what kind of weight you put on, as well as your total macros, which I'll talk about in a second. So what you see with many people when they go wrong in putting on muscle is they're like, oh yeah, I'm in bulking season right now. I can eat as much as I want. I can eat whatever I want. And I just continue to get stronger and get huge and get big and put on all this muscle. When in reality, they probably are putting on some muscle and they probably are getting a lot stronger, but how much of that weight that they're putting on is actually lean muscle? Or you see lots of people, they'll overeat and they just think they can eat whatever they want. and they end up putting on so much body fat with all the muscle that they are putting on that they just kind of look like crap. They just look fluffy. To be honest, they put on body fat and they just put too much fat on and they just look kind of round and fluffy and not very strong or muscular at all, when their energy and strength probably does go up, but it's not in a very effective way if your goal is to put on lean muscle, which is what I'm focusing on, putting on lean muscle. Where if your goal is to put on as much size as possible and you don't care about putting on any body fat, then by all means go ahead, up your calorie intake to like 500 to 1,000 calories over maintenance. I mean, it's definitely gonna put on more size and allow you to get more energy and keep improving in strength, but it's going to cause a lot of body fat to be put on your body, and you're going to end up looking fluffy and just not very good. So but if that's what you want, that by all means go right ahead. There's not one right or wrong way to do this. I'm just talking about what I prefer and what I think is most effective personally. So for me, what I like to do is I like to keep my calorie surplus as small as possible. So I'm just giving my body enough calories to be in a surplus, so it can take that extra calories and put that extra calorie intake primarily on promoting muscle growth. What causes fat gain is when you're in such a big surplus that your muscles take the necessary amount of calories that they need to grow and get bigger, but then you're left with all these extra calories, and all that extra calories is just put into fat growth. So that's how people end up gaining lots of extra body fat. But yeah, so I'm not eating as much as the typical person on a bulk would. Lots of people, a typical surplus is 500 at the smallest. I'm going anywhere from 300 to 400 over my maintenance, which is a relatively low surplus. But so far I've been able to stay lean. I'm very slowly putting on muscle, but it's been lean muscle. So it's stuff that I'm happy with. As long as I'm staying for the most part lean and putting on minimal body fat, then that's all I can ask for, and that's that's what you want. So going deeper for macronutrients, so your proteins, carbs, and fats. So your proteins, I stress, there's not one most important macronutrient, but if there's, out of the 3 macronutrients that I'm going to be talking about, if there's one that you have to focus on and have to nail every day, it's protein. Protein is what's going to allow you to maintain and put on solid and hard, dense muscle. Your protein for your weight should always stay constant, whether you're putting on weight or losing weight. So right now we're talking about gaining weight. It should always be constant. I recommend, or I prefer, eating about 1 gram of protein per goal body weight. So right now, my goal is to put on roughly anywhere from 8 to 10 pounds of muscle during this bulking season. So I want to set my protein intake approximately 10 grams higher than my body weight right now. So say I'm 150 pounds, I want to be eating roughly 160 to 165, maybe 170 grams of protein per day. And that's going to stay constant throughout my whole lifting career and life, when I'm working out. And obviously the only time that adjusts is when your weight adjusts. So as your weight goes up, obviously you need more protein, and it's going to adjust with that, but it's never going to adjust on a daily basis with the rest of your macronutrients. So the next thing, let's talk about carbs. Carbs, if you're not very strict with your carbs and fats on a bulk, it's not a huge difference. You're still going to put on size. But if you're a really strict person who really wants to focus on staying lean and putting on muscle, like myself, then you're going to have to track your carbs and fats and be somewhat accurate with that. So if you are like that, I recommend making roughly 50% of your total calorie intake from carbs. So for someone like me, I'm 150 pounds. Out of my 2,600-ish calories, or 700 calories that I'm consuming in a day, I'm making 50% of those carbs. Carbs are very important to your diet, and that's what gives you lots of your energy, and it boosts your leptin and everything, and they allow you to have your testosterone stay constant and healthy, as well as just straight up just letting you sleep better and just giving you overall just good energy and making you feel better. Also, carbs taste very good. You can't complain about that. Carbs are always a good thing in the diet. So then lastly, we'll talk about fat. Now fat is just as important, just like every one of the macronutrients. Fat, I recommend, personally for me, I like to take about 30% of my diet comes from fat, and that honestly, that just makes your food taste better. Fat's also a very necessary part of your diet. It gives you energy. It just helps boost your overall just performance, and it's just an essential part of your diet. If you're wondering where I get these percentages from, I simply just look at my calorie counting app. Just any kind of calorie counting app will get it. You can get free apps all over on the internet or whatever, and they will track and calculate percentages and everything for you. So I'm just looking at the percentages on the app to see where my carbs and fats are. So to end off the discussion about putting on muscle, you need to be in a calorie surplus. I recommend being in a minimal surplus, so finding your maintenance and only going about 300 to 500 calories over your maintenance. That's it. Otherwise, if you go too high, you're just going to end up putting on extra body fat and not looking near as good as you were if you were to keep your maintenance, if you're going to keep your surplus relatively low. And then proteins, carbs, and fats. I recommend getting protein for roughly anywhere from 10 to 20 grams per goal body weight. So if you are 160 pounds and you want to be, your goal weight is 175 pounds, so putting on 15 pounds, you'd want to set your protein intake anywhere from 170 to 180 grams of protein per day. And that stays constant until your weight starts changing. And for carbs and fats, I recommend getting about 50% of your total calories carbs and 30% of your total calories fats. For someone like me, I usually end up eating roughly, 320-ish to 350 carbs on my higher surplus days, and anywhere from 70 to 90 grams of fat on my surplus days. As you can see, that's kind of a big difference between the two to fluctuate. So between like 70, 90 grams of fat or like 320 to 350 grams of carbs. I'm not terribly picky as long as I'm hitting my calorie and protein intake. Carbs and fats, they can fluctuate slightly. It doesn't matter too much. So that's bulking, putting on muscle. That's how you set your macros for that. So next I'm going to talk about losing weight. Okay, so I just talked about how to put on muscle mass and how to bulk, or I guess you could say. Now I'm going to talk about how to cut or lose weight. And when I say losing weight, I more so mean just losing body fat to make your muscles look fairly shredded and just ripped and pop out for the cutting kind of phase, I guess you would say, for bodybuilders out there. Or I guess this is helpful for you if you're just wanting to lose weight in general. It doesn't matter if you're trying to get ripped or whatever, just look better, feel healthier. This will work for you too, but for more so for me, where I lose weight and consider it a cut so I can get shredded and ripped. So to do this, like you already would know and I've already mentioned, you need to be in a calorie deficit. And just go over that again, that is less calories in a day than your body needs to maintain itself. So you have your calorie maintenance. Say your maintenance is roughly 2,500 calories, and that's to maintain your current weight. What you need to do in order to lose weight or get shredded, I guess you could say, is subtract roughly anywhere from 300 to 500 calories from that maintenance. That's going to put you in a calorie deficit. And what that means is usually you'd have enough calories for your body to use and properly put into maintaining itself. A deficit means it's not going to have enough. So what's going to happen is your body's going to tap into its fat, and ultimately you'll end up tapping into some of your muscle stores, but mainly your fat stores. And that what it's going to take away is going to start burning off that fat and using that fat to make up for the lack of calories that it has, and that's what causes you to lose weight. Now it can, however, tap into your muscle stores, and if you're someone like me who's into bodybuilding, all that stuff, it will eventually tap into your muscle stores and you get to a very lean state, but that is just part of it. It's where people go wrong is they way overdo it sometimes, and they end up losing a lot of muscle and a lot of mass that's just unnecessary because they way overdo it and they don't set their macros properly. So we just talked about total calorie intake. So I prefer anywhere from 300 or subtracting 300 from your maintenance all the way to 500. If you're someone like me, I recommend going a relatively low deficit, so anywhere from 300, because people like me, we are relatively lean, we don't have much body fat at all. Or if you're someone who's already decently fit, you can see some of your abs and you have good muscle definition, you want to just lose a few more pounds. Don't put yourself in a big deficit. That's just going to cause you to lose muscle, and it's going to take away from your energy and just cause you to just feel totally just weak and just not good at all. It's just unnecessary. So go stay in a relatively small deficit. Now that big deficit has its time and place too. I recommend going in a relatively big deficit if you have a lot of weight to lose. Say if you have over like 10 pounds to lose, or you're very overweight and you're trying to get in shape, your body can afford to go in a big deficit because it has so much mass and body fat to lose. So you're gonna feel fine at first. So talking about your macros, like I said earlier, we'll start with your protein. Your protein always stays constant. Whether you're bulking, cutting, your protein is always gonna stay constant. So say, let's just use an example, when you're bulking, you set your protein to your goal body weight. That's gonna stay the same when you're cutting as well. So I know you're not gonna be putting on weight when you're cutting, but whatever it's at, just leave it there. Your protein is very important because that's gonna allow you to hold on to your muscle when you're losing weight, and it's gonna allow you to maintain as much strength as you possibly can, while giving your muscles just a fuller and hard look, and it's gonna keep your muscles strong and stop them from going away when you're in a calorie deficit. So protein is crucial when you're cutting body fat. Also, proteins can be very filling and they keep you satisfied and just full when you're in a calorie deficit, because obviously when you're in a deficit, you're not eating as much, so it's you're gonna feel hungrier and you're not gonna be as energized as you were when you're in a surplus, because you're depleting your body from necessary calories. So your protein is very important. You should always keep that constant, eat plenty of protein. If you can't do anything else, just focus on your protein and being in that calorie deficit, because that's what's gonna help you the most. The next is your carbs and fats. Now, obviously, this is what makes your weight loss very effective. You can still lose weight going on higher carbs and higher fats as long as you're in a deficit, but when you're someone like me who has to really focus on getting a really lean state, it's definitely very helpful to pay attention to your carbs and fats. So I'm gonna just talk about how to set and track those. So when setting your carbs and fats when you're trying to lose weight, it's very, very, very important to not go too low, because your carbs, like I said earlier, your carbs are what make you feel energized. They what keep your testosterone constant and healthy. They keep your leptin levels healthy, so they allow you to sleep and just rest and make your body just feel satisfied. Same with your fats. Fats allow your food to taste good. They keep them from tasting bland. Fats give you energy and just allow you to stay and perform at your best possible, and put out the best possible results. So it's very, very, very important to not go too low in those. Otherwise, you're just gonna deprive your body from necessary nutrients, and it's just gonna feel like shit. So keep those as high as you can, but in a range that's still gonna be very effective. When you were bulking up or putting on weight, I recommend eating roughly 50% of your calories as carbs. Now it's gonna change. Your protein stays the same when you're cutting, but what changes is your fats and your carbs. So I reduced my carbs from 50% all the way down to 40%. So it's significantly less, that's 10% less. And it's definitely gonna be a little bit noticeable, but if you're someone who's used to this, it's relatively simple. You just say if you eat simple meals, so you have a plate of chicken, rice, veggies, and then you cook that all in some oil or some butter or something like that, just reduce your portion size of rice or potatoes or pasta slightly, and then you can reduce the amount of oil you cook it in, or maybe you can avoid cooking in low-calorie, non-fat oil to reduce your fat. So you simply just reduce your carbs and fats. So you cut your carbs to 40%, and then you're gonna lower your fats down to roughly 25%, so a good 5%. it's a reasonable range to lower them, and it's in a spot where it's still gonna allow your body to ultimately maintain as much energy and strength as it can while still losing muscle. Now, one of the most effective ways to be in a deficit and lose weight or get shredded or whatever you want to say is to incorporate refeed days. Now, refeed days are not cheat days. They're strategic days where you up your carb intake and you reduce your fat and protein intake slightly. What that does is, this is only for like you people who are extreme dieters and dieting down to get really shredded and just ripped, sort of like myself. What that does is by upping your carbs, so you might up your carbs from 40% all the way to like 60 or 70%. Eat a lot of carbs, eat like 300 to 400 grams of carbs in a day with your cut. So you'd reduce your protein and fat slightly, but really up your carbs. And what that does is it really improves your muscle glycogen function. So it's gonna really just make your muscles appear fuller and energize them more and just energize your whole body in general. It's really gonna improve your testosterone and your leptin levels because you have going so high in carbs, or before you had to decrease your carbs and fats and everything, and it just became stressing and just it was depleting your body, and it's not fun. So that just re-energizes you, allows you to keep going and stay satisfied during your cut. But I will say though, it's not a cheat day. It's not a day when you go and eat as much of whatever kind of food you want. That's a binge eating when you have a cheat day. It's unnecessary, it sets you way off track. Refeed days are very beneficial. They improve your physique, like the appearance of it. They make you feel better, and they just help your overall progress in losing weight. So to finish things off, to lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit. I recommend going anywhere from 300 to 500 calories below your maintenance. And for your proteins, you keep that constant unless it's a refeed day when you can decrease that slightly. Your carbs, I recommend getting anywhere from 30 to 40%. It can fluctuate a little bit, similar to when you're bulking, the same thing here. And your fats, anywhere from 25 to 30%. Your fats and your carbs, they can fluctuate. So say one day you end up eating a little bit more fat than you plan to, then just reduce your carbs slightly. And it's the same thing with your carbs. You end up eating a little bit too many carbs than you usually would, just reduce your fat slightly. So proteins, stay constant, 10 to 20 pounds per pound of goal body weight. So 10 to 20 grams, I should say, per pound of goal body weight. I think that makes sense. And carbs and fats, carbs anywhere from 30 to 40%, fats anywhere from 25 to 30%. And that's all I have to say right now about setting your macros. I think that was pretty self-explanatory. If you guys have any other questions about this, please contact me. I will be happy to talk to you about your diet, your macros, or anything like that, and just help work with you so you can find the optimal calorie ranges or set your macros if you're having a hard time with that. So yeah, please like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the future with another video. Thanks, guys.